Got it.
Live.
Got it. Are we live?
I think so. I just got a Facebook notification.
Awesome. Hey, influential leaders and executives. Welcome to the EQ Leaders Pause. This is our new weekly live stream that I will be leading, and sometimes with the assistance of Kelsey Ann, who's joining me today.
Hello.
And so what is the EQ Leaders Pause? Brand new, this is our first live stream. This is the opportunity for you as a leader to take a moment to think, to reflect, to look at different perspectives, because as leaders, we are constantly tackling big, complex problems. And we're tackling a lot of people problems. And one thing that is so needed is that ability to create space between the stimulus, what's happening, the chaos, whatever it is that's prompting you, and that response. What happens in that in-between space is your key. That is the golden area for you to gather information, gather new perspectives to make better decisions, more impactful choices that allow you to be a better leader, that allow you to have more impact. And this is the EQ Leaders Pause. So today we are tackling perspectives on navigating conflict in the workplace. And why we're tackling this topic, it's simple, because it's top of mind for me right now. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Melissa. I'm an executive coach. I'm a management consultant. I work with leaders such as yourself. I help them boost their influence. I help them build high-performing teams, and I help them gain their time back by leading more effectively. All right, and inside the Executive Edge, that is my membership group. This week, we've been tackling culture, specifically employee culture. And last week in the EQ Cafe on Friday, we tackled conflict. So conflict, tensions, and all of that within employee culture is very much top of mind and at the heart of the discussions that I'm having behind the scenes. So that's why I wanted to bring this topic forward to you today. And hopefully this is something that can be useful to you. So I'm going to welcome Kelsey Ann. Tell us who you are for those who haven't met you yet.
My name is Kelsey Ann Casey, and I am the new director here at InCharge Coaching, a director of marketing and PR. So I am excited to be here and excited to be on this EQ Leaders Pause with you, Melissa.
Awesome. So the reason I invited Kelsey Ann is because I want to be able to talk about these big leadership challenges that we encounter, but bringing in the employee perspective. Because as leaders, we are no longer in the employee's shoes. So our perspective is different. What we care about is different. And we are not always privy to what goes on for the employee. So I wanted to bring Kelsey Ann's voice in to help bring that perspective in. Make sense?
Yes.
So if you're joining us live, say hi. If you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay. I want this to be interactive. This is meant for you to be able to, be with us, join in the conversation, ask questions. I love answering questions. Kelsey Ann, you've seen me in action. I absolutely thrive on questions, tackling challenges. So bring anything to the table that you want my feedback on or answers to. I'm always happy to help. If you missed the live today, know that this is going to be happening every Tuesday, or at least that's the plan, as long as toddlers are in daycare, which is not the case today. I woke up to a sick toddler that needed to stay home. So that kind of changed the plans for the day, let's say.
Definitely.
And so as long as toddlers are in daycare and we are in good health, we'll see you every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So on the topic of conflict, Kelsey-Ann, you were at, in the beginning of the month, we had a mastermind inside the Executive Edge, and we talked about employee culture. And now I told you I wouldn't put you on the spot, and here I am putting you on the spot. I'm curious what you got out of being present in that session. What stood out to you, and if there's any type of like conflict or tension that caught your attention?
I think one that I guess now being in this role and whatnot, I've never really thought of it that there really is almost two cultures within a culture. Like there's like the employee culture, and then there's like the management culture, and how, yes, there is this umbrella of the organization and kind of what they want. I've seen it in some of my former employers, and especially in the larger organizations, where there was like a totally different, like the employees were over here doing their own thing, and like management had absolutely no idea, although they thought they knew the culture, they really didn't. So that I think was a major piece, is that there was a lot of people in that mastermind. They either knew the culture was going good, and they didn't really couldn't put a finger on exactly why. They had to work backwards and try to unravel, keep on pulling on that thread. Or they knew something was wrong, but they couldn't figure out what was that, or, what was that piece, or multiple pieces that are all connected. What is this bigger piece, and how can I, change something that you probably have absolutely no control over?
Yeah. It's it's a daunting task as a leader, especially if we want to lead big organizational change.
Yeah.
But when we see, when we look at culture, I see it like an iceberg. So what we see is 1/11 on the surface is the behavior, and those are the things that we observe. And sometimes as leaders, we'll look at that behavior, and everything seems okay. So we're like trucking along, we're focusing on the goals, we're driving the agenda, everything seems fine. And then all of a sudden, big volcano, huge eruption, something went wrong. We don't understand.
Yeah.
And that is the experience of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that we miss is that the conflict didn't just appear out of thin air.
No.
It started as a tension. And so going back to that iceberg, if you look at like the surface of the water, everything seems fine, but underneath the water, there's, these tensions at play. And there's more than one in every organization, for every team, in every employee. There's always all of these tensions at play. And some of them are really need to be paid attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go up, they go down, things happen, all of a sudden, boom, big explosion. Right? Mm-hmm. So how do you navigate, conflict? Well, one is being aware of tensions, super helpful. Mm-hmm. Because now you're not necessarily dealing with the eruption of a volcano. You are dealing with balancing, or even managing, balancing, or resolving tensions before mm-hmm. they become a volcano. Mm-hmm. So as a leader, having your finger on the pulse of what is going on below the surface is critical. Mm-hmm. If you want to avoid the volcano, if you don't mind dealing with volcanoes and cleaning up messes, then hey. But and you spoke something that was really important there, which is the management culture. They know about management culture, but they're not necessarily privy to what's going on in employee culture, because employee culture talks to itself, and it will exchange information, and it will let a management culture know what it wants it to know. So not everything that you need to know, what they want you to know based on their agenda. And the employee culture agenda is simple. It's how do we protect ourselves? This is about survival. This is about emotional prosperity. You know, how do I get those rewards? And how do I avoid punishment? And they will let you know what they want you to know based on those criteria. Did you know about all of this before you started working with me?
No, well, like indirectly, yes, but like, did I understand how this like really can, you know, create volcanoes in a workplace? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, if you're listening right now and you have experienced this, tensions below the surface and then the volcano is erupting, say yes, drop I feel you down in the comments. Let me know how you've experienced it. I want to know how you've seen it actually materialize for you. And the thing is in the employee culture, they're seeing all these tensions. They know what's happening. And then, oops, surprise for management. Yeah. And then what do we do once the volcano has erupted? And I really want to bring this to the table because I see this one mistake. So if you're watching me, stay tuned in for this one. There is one thing that we tend to do in management culture to deal with these conflicts that absolutely does not work, that gets you in hot water and will blow back on you. What is the thing that we tend to do when there's conflict between two people, two employees? What do we want to do? Kelsey Ann, you know this answer. What do we tend to do?
What do you do with two kids? You put them in a room and you work it out.
That is a problem. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my gosh. So here's what happens when you put two people that are in conflict in a room for them to work it out, right? There's this ideal that, hey, we're all adults, put emotions at the door. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment. Put those feelings aside, be professional, be adults, work it out. There is a big problem with that is we're driven by emotions and we can't separate ourselves from emotions. Some people are better at navigating emotions than others. It's a skill. It's a learnable skill. But when emotions run high, especially if they're high intensity, we do not access the thinker. The logical part of the brain is cut off. We're hijacked. So, hey, great plan. Not going to work based on human biology. So there's two things that typically happen when we throw two people in a room is one, this is hot conflict. When I say hot conflict, I mean, this is emotionally charged. The emotions are usually frustration, anger, vigilance. It's an attack kind of energy. And there's nothing wrong with anger and frustration. I love these are useful emotions that help people tackle big problems. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. What is bad is if it's high intensity and it's emotionally charged and you're putting two people in the same room to work it out, they're just going to attack each other. So this is when you're seeing blame, all of those toxic habits, right? Blame, criticism, throwing each other under the bus, setting each other up. Like there's just a slew of things that we're willing to do when we're in that kind of a state that's not really conducive to co-creating a solution.
No. And depending on how hot that conflict is between two people, it could also potentially get physical too. So like, I think recognizing what kind of temperature it is and how hot is also extremely important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you been in a position where that's been done?
Not directly, but in a couple of different scenarios, I've known it, not in the typical like business setting, but in other settings where at work, like things get heated and people have gotten physical at like in their workplace setting. And like, regardless, it's not professional regardless of your workplace setting, period, but it's extremely unprofessional in a business setting, more so than in other industries. But yeah, it's something, especially, the temperature of the world right now. People are very quick to trigger. Their temperature gauge is off, because I know mine is with just life and everything. So I think that's also something, to be aware of, that work is work, but there's other things going on in people's lives and employees' lives right now, big time. There's been a lot of changes in a lot of employees' lives over, not to talk about COVID too much, but that can sometimes increase that pressure on the conflicts too.
Absolutely. And then if you think of that, tension's been at play for a long time. So even though this seems like recent, like, oh, this just happened today. Well, guess what? This has been simmering for maybe a year.
Yep.
So the emotions have been happening behind the scenes. You haven't been aware, but emotions turn into feelings, turn into mood. So now we have this mood, right? This hot conflict that's become a mood that's just waiting for like the little thing that's going to make it. I'm trying to think of the English analogy here, but la goutte fait déborder le verre, the drop that's going to make it
over the cup.
Yes.
Overflow, yeah.
So this didn't just happen. This has been at play for a very long time. And unfortunately, the call that I get is usually the call of, we've put the employees in a room to work it out and it did not work out, which is, cleaning up the mess. So, hey, if you are going through this and you're not sure what to do, call me before putting people in a room. Okay. I prefer going in and doing an intervention than going in to clean up the mess. Because once the mess has happened, it is much harder to recover from it, to rebuild trust. It's usually affected other people. It's affected the team. It's had this like ripple effect. And depending on how big this volcano was, it can really, really, really wreak havoc on a team. So please call me before putting them in a room together. Mm-hmm. Now, on the flip side, so we talked about hot conflict. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about cold conflict. So if hot conflict is emotionally charged and it's anger and frustration and all of these emotions that, help you attack problems, cold conflict is kind of the opposite.
Not my problem.
So we don't care anymore. We're disengaged.
Yeah.
So usually this is fueled by emotions that are helping you pull back, such as resentment, disgust, fear. And these emotions help you like pull it back. And I would also add like people who are not good at navigating their emotions, people who have really strengthened this ability to suppress their emotions and how they feel can also come off like cold conflict. So if you think back of this like iceberg and the water line, you know, the hot conflict can maybe be simmering right here and ready to explode. The conflict, the cold conflict is way below the surface. And is there for a long time. And you will, you know, as how it feels. It's kind of like, you know, something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. You don't know, but it feels icy cold in here. You walk in, you're like, ooh. In my mind, I almost see like, you know, the surface of the water is frozen solid. So that cold, deep conflict can have a trigger that erupts. So all of a sudden you have behavior. But what happens when you put them in a room together at this point, they probably go right back down. No, nothing's wrong. I'm over it. All good, resolved. Yes, they agree to everything. Everything's easy. So as a leader, facilitating this conflict feels like, oh, that was easy. Done. They're all agreeable.
Water's still ice cold, but you know, it's cold and it's getting colder as it goes deeper, right?
It might be getting colder. It might be getting colder. And the deeper it gets and the more disengaged that person is, you know, the impact of that sometimes is irreversible. And the impact on others is also major, and other team players. That can affect trust, collaboration, your ability to work together effectively, communication. Oh my God, with cold conflict comes with a lot of like, we're not willing to communicate anymore. I'm not going to share anything unless I have to. And, you know, if we're starting to get into active disengagement at this point, maybe we're on purpose not sharing information. We're gatekeeping.
So you find that, do you notice that if it's happening with the employees, it's also happening like hot and cold conflict with employees, it's also happening hot and cold conflict with management? Are they the same kinds, like, or is it different? Like, is it different temperatures between the two? No? Okay.
Same. It's the same principle. The disagreements might be different.
Right.
There's more competition, a little bit more politicking,
yeah,
a little bit more power struggle inside the management culture.
Yeah.
Because now we have power, we need to hang on to power, we
right.
need, and even in these like healthy or healthier organizations, power and politicking exists in every single organization. It's just sometimes it's not so obvious, but it's still at play. So absolutely, it happens. And so fair warning to anyone who's listening, if you take away one thing, please don't put people inside a room and tell them to work it out and to come out with their done. Because even if it doesn't blow up, if it's cold conflict, it's going to seem done. And it's not done, it's going to go back below the surface and it's going to rear its ugly head again and again and again. So if you are concerned about like losing time, this is how you're going to lose time, is keep fighting the same battles. You're going to keep cleaning up messes. You're going to keep losing sleep over people not getting along. People just get along. Why can't you care about what we're trying to do here? Why can't you just care about the goal? Just get it done, right? These are the frustrations as a leader when we have all of this pressure coming down. So we have pressure of delivering to higher management, or we have obligations towards our goals, our missions, obligations towards customers, clients. There's a lot of pressure there. And sometimes it feels like, ooh, dealing with these conflicts is, and so we don't want to, because it feels like we don't have time. And yet if we don't take the time, gets wasted because we're going to be dealing with bigger messes.
And we're not playing the floor is lava, right? With this volcano that just exploded. As much as that would be fun, that is not appropriate time for or our activity for the workplace.
But that's an interesting thing to bring up, the floor is lava, because it's, you know, it almost feels like once the volcano has erupted, you're trying to, you know, when you're in that culture, if you're in that team, if you're around this eruption, you're trying to not get burned. So you're avoiding, not talking to that one. I'm scared of da da da. I'm staying away from it. I'm pretending it didn't happen.
And, you know, I've seen it where it's been like a group of people. So then everybody's trying to stay. I don't want to get into that group of people. Like, that's just drama, staying away from that lunch table, or, you know, wherever the conflict is, right? People can feel it. People can sense it.
Mm-hmm. And then if it's politically charged, if there's power in politics at play, then you have people kind of flocking, trying to somehow get some emotional prosperity.
And people like to gossip. People want to know the dirt. People want to know what's going on. And then you play telephone, right? Or not you, but, you know, people, employees play telephone.
Yeah. And information is power. Especially in when we're playing power in politics. So
yeah,
it's so it seems all I feel like I come as the bearer of bad news, like here's a big problem and you have all these tensions. So let me bring in some good news. How do you deal with all of this, right, as a leader? So one is awareness. Really dig into being aware of what is going on. That ability to go below the surface, to pick up on this information, to discover what are the tensions at play within your employees. So like there's like internal conflict, there's relational conflicts, there's conflicts within the teams, there's tensions between what the organization want, what the employees want. There's all of these tensions at play. So, you know, first thing, get acquainted with what the tensions are and why they exist, so that you can start looking at what you're going to do about it. Mm-hmm. Some of them can be resolved. Some of them can be easily resolved. This is the thing. Sometimes because we don't want to look at it, because we're scared of what we'll find, you know, these things fester and become much bigger problems that could have been dealt with like this. Yeah. And then there's these bigger tensions that need to be balanced. That means you're not going to get rid of them. For example, if you have a big year, a big month, a lot of demand from your customers, and you're trying to meet that demand, and you need money to survive, the business needs money, but your employees are tired. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is a tension that you can't necessarily eliminate. No. This tension between satisfying customers and making money and providing a healthy, flexible environment and workable hours, a way for your employees to thrive. These things can be in tension. And their intention everywhere. Mm-hmm. So that is something to be aware of and keep balancing. Awareness. Second, trust. If you want to be able to have conversations, effective communications, solving these conflicts, you need trust. This is not negotiable. So let's say you are in the situation where the volcano has erupted. Let's just, you know, Steve likes to do things in this way. He was having to collaborate with Joe. Joe likes to do things a different way. They can't finish the project in time. So now they're pissed off at each other because no one wants to fail. And yet they have completely different perspective on how to complete this project. And the way that they're working is just not, it's not coming together. Okay, so this is a real, real life. This is actually what happens on the ground. These are the problems that I walk into, to deal with. And it's been going on so long that now it's exploded because the deadline is around the corner and there's no way we're meeting it. So now we're frustrated, we're angry, we're not getting what we want. What we want is to achieve that deadline and it's not going to happen. And now they see each other as the problem. Mm-hmm. If you just did it my way, we get this done, and vice versa. If you did it my way, so be easy and done. Boom, volcano. Mm-hmm. So what do you do?
I know what you don't do.
So if you know what you don't do, what would you do? Hey, for all of you watching, what would you do? What would be the instinct here? If you're not putting them in a room together, what would you do?
Have a conversation one-on-one with each of them.
Yeah. Have a conversation one-on-one with each of them. And you do not put them in a room together until you have enough trust that they can have a real conversation, the willingness to have the conversation, and that the temperature, if it was hot, you need to bring it down. And if it was cold, you need to warm it up.
So kind of neutral.
And you want this kind of warm temperature. Knowing, and this is the little warning, is once you get into that conversation, it can shift. So cold can become really hot, hot can become cold. So you have to be kind of keep your finger on the pulse there and know how to handle.
Keep your thermometer handy.
Keep your thermometer handy, exactly. And know how to handle whatever is going to arise. There is a different way that I handle hot conflict from cold conflict, and I can't go into those specifics right now, but if you are a member of the Executive Edge, go to the library and I have some resources. I actually have a cheat sheet and some videos on what to do. So if you're inside the group, and if you're inside the Executive Edge group, come to office hours, bring me your questions, and I'll be happy to answer, give you feedback on your specific situation and what to do and what not to do. Because conflict is not easy. It's not easy. And yet we have to deal with it.
I'm just going to say, and it's not going away. It just changes and morphs, right? And it between people.
But you can definitely stay on top of it and avoid a lot of it. Mm-hmm. If you have that awareness and that understanding. And, this is going to require a lot of trust and empathy in order to be able to manage all of that on the front end, so you're not cleaning up on the back end. Mm-hmm. But definitely possible to minimize the cleanup and the damage and the repercussions that come from it. Mm-hmm. So work with people one-on-one, help them. You need to have trust with them. You need to help them build trust with each other. You need to increase their willingness. You need to help them see their common ground. So if you can imagine a triangle, if you've worked with me, this is not going to be new to you. If you've been following me, probably not new to this concept either. But we tend to see, the problem between us. So you are my problem. You are the obstacle. You are the things that's getting in the way. But when we can reframe and we can put, as a triangle, I like to draw a triangle. I put myself, the person, doesn't matter who's on top, just so you know, and the problem on a different corner. Now we have a direct connection that has nothing to do with the problem. And the problem becomes something that we share. So now we can actually be allies in solving this problem. But they have to have this mindset. They have to see this before they get in a room together to talk it out. I literally draw this out when I'm working with someone. And then I take this connection right here and I help expand. What is the connection you have with the other person? What's your past experiences with them? What can you trust about them? What are wins that you've had in the past? What are the things that you appreciate about them? So I start getting them to list all of the different ways that they are connected. And then we can look at what is really the problem and expand on that. Then how can we use this connection here to tackle this? Right there, my friend, is magic. As an employee, so this is your employee's perspective here. As I'm drawing this out and I'm explaining this, how does it feel to you?
As an employee, you almost always feel the pressures on you to figure and solve for that problem. So to know that your superior, right? You're the person that you
Report to.
I was like, what's that word? They are looking at that problem and saying it's a joint problem and like, let's tackle it together. Like we'll figure it out together. That relieves a whole lot of pressure off my back, knowing, okay, it's not just for me to solve for this. I have help. And they have a genuine interest in helping me achieve XYZ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I, as a leader, become your ally. I become the other person's ally, and I help you to become allies. So what happens? What's the result of that? Collaboration, communication, working together. That is a much better approach to solving this conflict than putting them in a room together. And I know I keep emphasizing it, but you would not imagine the number of calls I have received, the number of messages, people reaching out to me, not just leaders, okay? This is employees. These are managers who've had this done to them. These are employees that are like, I need help because I need to manage up because this is totally like, I need help. And I'm getting pressure to resolve it. And I'm set up because there's no way I can resolve it. We can't communicate. I want to resolve it, but me and the other person, this conflict, I don't know what to do about it.
Some people just don't talk the same language in, body language, physical language. And even if they're both English or French or mixture or whatever language, they just can't understand because they're not listening.
And it is hard to be in the same world when we are in intense emotions. We cannot stand in the same world. We will not see things the same way. I cannot listen to you. I cannot really listen to you to communicate effectively if I am emotionally charged.
Mhm.
It's the reality.
Yep.
But when you know this, when you have a better way of approaching it, so go back and listen to this video again. Take notes, take notes. And for those of you who are watching, I want to know what was important for you. Kelsey and I are taking time out here. We're taking a pause with you. We want to contribute some of this knowledge to help you. So I want to know how this was helpful and what ideas you're taking away from this video today to help you. So go ahead and drop this in the comments. If I see that you're taking away, I am inspired to give you more. Tell me what you love about today's EQ Leaders Pause, because I will give you more of that. And if you want more specifics, if you want access to some of my resources, ask me about how you can become a member of the Executive Edge. So either myself or Kelsey Ann can help you set it up. Also grab a connect call with me if you are interested and want to chat about it. Grab your 15 minutes. We can get on a call, get to know each other a bit, and see if it is a good fit for you. And for everyone, thank you for joining us, and I will see you next week on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be on time next time, as long as I don't have toddlers in the house. Bye.